Okay, great. I think that is being done now. So here we go. So I've received a lot of questions. So today's session is going to be very interesting because there are a lot of questions regarding, funding. Mr. Philip, how do we get funding? I've tried this, I've tried that, this and that. A lot of questions have been coming in, regarding funding and how we can go about it when it's funding. So this session is to discuss with you or to share with you how the NGOs get funding. So one of the biggest questions in the NGO space is funding, whether we like it or not. I've received, few among these questions on how do NGOs get money. Permit me to use that word funding as money. How do NGOs get money? How do we fund our activities? And how do organizations sustain themselves? These are a lot of questions which many of you on this call and many others have asked. So many people assume, just like I always say, that once you are done with your registration, immediately and automatically grants and funding and donation will be coming in. Well, I won't respond now, and probably at the end of the session, it will help you to respond to those, questions about, okay, we are registered, we are legal, we are recognized. Why is the funding not coming? So this is not how it works. Funding is usually built, and how is through relationship, through credibility, through documentation, through visibility, consistency, and also proof of your work. Very, very important. I'll repeat. It's built through what? System, your structure, very important. Relationship is very important. Credibility is very important. Documentation is very important. And visibility is very important. Remember, we are talking about how do NGO get money. All right. So many, young NGOs or starters or leaders struggle with funding, not because nobody wants to support, your social cause, or not because, nobody wants to support, your project or your program. The truth is they are not prepared for the funding opportunities. Yes, please. They are not prepared. Now, how? An NGO may have a very good, clear vision and mission statement. Remember, at our first class, we talked about the NGO, the typologies of NGOs, the vision, the mission, and all of that. Yes, you might have all those, good vision, good mission, but then when there is poor documentation, you are far away from funding. It may have, okay, the passion and everything, your organization, your institution, your charity foundation may have everything, passion, you're passionate about what you're doing, but when there is no structure, trust me, um, you are far away from funding. Now, it may be that you have excellent activities, you've been carrying out, community outreach, supporting women, children, and all of that. Yes, those things, those activities are very excellent, but when you don't have evidence of impact, you are still far away from funding. Now, just in case you don't know, let me tell you that these things matters. So before discussing funding sources, it is important for us to understand clearly, funding is not only about asking for money. Yes, remember, there's this popular saying that you need to be findable before you're fundable, right? Funding is also about positioning your organization, your charity, in a way that makes people willing to support your work. Very, very important. In this space of NGO and charity and foundation work, yes, you need to position your organization in a way that people, donors will be interested to support your work. Now, what is NGO, funds? What do you understand by NGO funding and all of that? So NGO funding simply refers, as simple as it is, just as the basic, refers to the financial resources an organization uses to carry out its work. I want you to agree with me that without funding, it becomes difficult for your charity, for your NGO to run a project. Without funding, it will be difficult for you to provide those volunteers or pay your staff. Without funding, it will be difficult for you to buy materials, organize outreaches, and manage operations and sustain all those beautiful programs that you've been doing. Now, let me tell you, once you have those financial resources, it supports what? Your program implementation. This is a fact. Once you have funding, it supports you to pay staff and those volunteer. Once you have, funding, it supports your transportation, communication, your logistics, monitoring and evaluation, and everything once you have that funding. Now, different NGOs use different funding models. Remember, it might not be exactly as NGO A or NGO B. Try to figure out what your models are or is for your own charity organization or for your own NGO. As we move forward, of course, you're going to see some different models, which I will advise you can start from, and then it will really help you going forward. So some organization depends on grants, heavily depends on grants. Some depends on individual donations. And some other people, mega organization, they can combine the both. But the important thing is understanding the available options. So it's very key. We are having the basics of accessing funding. This session is just the basics. The most important thing for your organization or your charity or your foundation is understanding the available options. Is it grant? Is it individual donation? There are many. I just brought these two because they are very important. So common sources of, where NGO gets their fundings are commonly, through grants, donation, corporate partnership, fundraisings, and many more. So, but then I picked these four so that we could discuss, about them and, understand, because these are the most common. There are different, multiple ways that you can get your funding. Now, first, grants. A grant is money given to an organization for a particular purpose. And it usually, comes from, foundations, international organizations, development agency, government, donor agencies, and in most cases, grants are not random cash gifts. Please take note of this. They are not random cash gifts. They are usually attached to a project, they are attached to a program, and they have specific objective. Very important for you to know. Please mute yourself. I can see Haril Mohammed. Please kindly mute yourself. If you have questions or any comment, please, you can drop it in the chat box. I'll give us opportunity for us to add. So, for example of grants, an organization working on girls' education may receive funding to run a 6-month school retention program. Another example, a humanitarian organization may receive funding to distribute shelter materials. I hope you're taking note of this. Humanitarian organization may receive funding to distribute shelter materials. Equally, a health NGO may receive funding for maternal health awareness session. What this example means that grants are usually tied to expected results. Please mute yourself. So the donor expects the organization to carry out agreed activities and provide reports at the end of the day. This is grant for you. This is grant for you. Who is this? Let me mute this person. Lawan, okay. Okay. Mute. Okay, great. So it's important you know that grant, sorry, let me get back to this. Now, it is important for you to know that they are tied to specific activities. Now, how grant funding usually works. Now, a donor normally identifies a problem, or probably he might express a call for interest specifically to address. Now, you can have a donor calling for health projects in Uganda. Now, the donor is being specific, health project in Uganda. Now, this is how it works. They have a grant, they have a very good envelope, like probably $1 million. They announce a funding opportunity. The NGOs, they apply, applications are received and reviewed. Selected NGOs receive the funding. The NGO then implements the project and reports back to what? The donor. Now, key important thing that I want you to take away on this particular slide is that writing proposal is very important in the NGO sector. Understanding proposal is very, very important. Now, advantages of grants. It has its own advantages, and then it equally has its own disadvantages. Now, large funding opportunity, compared to many other sources of funding, grants can provide significant financial support for your charity, for your NGO, and for whatever you're doing. Some grants can support full program. They can pay, the personnel cost. They can pay the whole thing of the operation, and then including the activities and everything. These are large grants. They are very, very supportive in terms of, institutions. So, and then we have structured funding. Grant funding often comes with clear guidelines. Of course, yes. Remember, I told you a health donor advertised $1 million for health project. So it comes with a what? Clear guidance, timelines, expectations, and everything. So this particular structured funding improves organizational discipline. Once you have all those guidelines and the timelines, the expectation, and the objectives and everything, it makes an NGO being careful and well disciplined. All right. So a successful, managed grant can strengthen an NGO portfolio and credibility. Just in case, maybe sometimes you've received, funding or grants, and then you've not you've not heard from them again, or there was no any continuity, probably project 2.0 and all of that. There is a problem somewhere. Maybe there are some errors in the project implementation. There are some things that were not clear. There are some, gray areas that you need to clarify, or probably you did not implement the project. But grants well managed can increase and strengthen your portfolio and credibility. And in future, any donor that wants to support you, he will come and ask you, have you managed any funding before? Can we see the past grant, experience and agreement and all of that? Trust me, many of us on this call must have seen those questions on donors, website and all of that. Many. So it's important for us to note that it's very good for you to implement, a very credible, good project whenever you're given. So these are the challenges of grants. Grants are always highly competitive. Please take note of this. Young NGOs, leaders, and people that are starting organizations, grants are highly competitive. Trust me, I won't tell you they are very easy to access. Many organizations apply, few are selected. This means organization must work hard to prepare strong application. Remember, I talked about, proposal writing and your system. So grant opportunity, whenever you see grants, these are the common things that you would see amongst many. You provide your registration document, your organization profile, policies, financial records, past project experience, and monitoring system. It's very important. All these things, you have them. There are many more, but these are just few from, what I could share with you here. It's very important. Your document, your profile, your past projects. Ensure that all those things are intact, because they will ask. Another challenge is that some small NGOs struggle here. Whenever you're given large grants, some small NGOs are confused. Why? Because of those criteria. Remember, I said they comes with a well-structured discipline. So Grant always has this strict reporting requirement, just in case you should know this. Receiving a grant is not the end. You must account for how funds were used. Donors are coming to ask you. Of course, they will ask you for activity reports, the financial reports, the receipts, the participants or beneficiary data, and the monitoring and evidence and all of those things. Of course, yes, they will come and ask you. So these are some of the challenges. And then this is the most important part that I want you to pay attention that we in the NGO space makes common mistakes NGO make with grants. So some organization begin searching for grants before building their organization. Many. I am responding to some of those questions. I receive a lot of questions about, how do we go about getting grant and all of that. And when I begin to ask them question, okay, when did you start? They will tell me that, the last 6 months we started this organization. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, some other people will be like, for the past 12 months. Some others will tell you like the last 3 months I was able to I was like, oh, interesting. It is a fact for you to understand that you might have the capacity to get consultant to have all those policies or to position or to provide all those documentation for your organization. But it is important for you to know that building your organization always position you in getting grant. Now, some young organization that started, instead of them to focus internally, on building their organization, they spend all their energies chasing donors, expression of interest online. They see this expression of interest, they quickly start applying, calling teams to come and no. Don't neglect your program quality. Don't neglect documentation. Don't neglect your system. Your visibility is important. Your financial discipline is also important. That will be seen in your document and in all those past experience, that of projects that you've implemented. Now, let me tell you something. Another mistake is applying for grant opportunity that is available. I was a victim of this. I'm sharing this, where you see whatever call for expression and then you apply. Number one, you waste your time. You waste your energy, you waste your resources. I was lost at some point. So I'm happy to tell you that not every grant fits your mission. Please take note of this. If your NGO is focused on education, please apply for education-related projects. It doesn't make any sense for you to apply for an agricultural intervention grant simply because the money is available there. No. Your NGO thematic area is education, please apply for education-related. Your NGO is agriculture, please do it. You cannot be an accountant and then you want to work as a doctor in just because you've seen the advert that hospital A in so country is looking for doctor, and because you have the BSc and you want to. It doesn't work. You waste your time. Mission mismatch creates problem later. Take note of this, very important. Not every grant fits your mission, and it's not every grant that you apply. These are the common real-time mistakes that we are having. And then those consultants are always there online, sharing a lot of expression of interest calls, and then your body, you really want to get grants and, funding and all of that. Please, not every grant fits your mission. So, practical and reflective question for you, please ask yourself, if a donor today comes out and then, hey, organization A, provide evidence of your work, what would you present to that donor? If someone approach you, I want to support this. Please take note. Photos are important.
Hi.
Reports are important. Beneficiary data are important. Please mute your mic. Financial records are important. Your website is also important. The donor might be in the US. The donor might be, in whatsoever. He can't come probably to, South Africa or this. Please, can you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself, please? Okay. So Many organizations discover gaps in this aspect. So it's very important to have all these records, in place just in case a donor approach you. We are talking about positioning yourself. These are common things that we try to ignore them in time of accessing funding. So that is grants. And then the second point here, another common way NGO gets their funding is through donation. This part is very friendly and is common. Donation are financial or material contributions given by individuals or groups or supporters or whosoever that believe in your organization's work. Unlike grants, donations do not always come through formal application. Sometimes they come through friends, families, alumni, former beneficiaries, or your friend, just mention them, or through public campaigns and all of that. Donation can be cash donations or non-cash donations. Please, this is good for you to take note of them, the differences between grants and donations. All right. Was it last week or within this week? A friend called me that someone, I should go to his WhatsApp status and check, he posted some of those beautiful activities, Children's Day activity. It was so beautiful. And I was so excited because he told me that someone called him and then they want to donate, they want to support, having seen all those posts and impact and, some beautiful programs. That is donation. All right. So example of donation could be, like I said, food items, clothing, educational materials. If you are into education sector, the health sector, you could get, medical supplies from, other, medical institutions or donors, transportation support, venue support, and all of that. So many NGO underestimate donations because they are focused only on grants. Yes. I was recently discussing with one of my boss from Uganda. You know, I hope he's on this call. So he said that one of the strategic way, Philip, that you can get funding is to seek for donation. You reach out to this organization, this UN agency, tell them you have the capacity to go and distribute this, donate all this material for us. We are going to go to the site, distribute, and from there we build relationships. And that majority of us or young leaders underestimate donations because they are always going on grants.com, fund NGO, go fund me, and all of that. No, please, this is a very important point for you. Donation can be powerful, especially for you guys, for young organizations, for people that are starting. Even bigger organizations, they do accept donation. I remember I accepted donation from Acted. I think, is it a French-based organization? Yes. So it's good to actually focus that. So how donation, works for NGO, people donate for different reasons. It's very good for you to know. This is very important. If you are in the humanitarian or developmental space, know that donations comes with a lot of reasons. So it's for you to pay attention, which so that it doesn't, cross your principle or why you're there. You understand? So some people donate because they care about a social issue. Some people donate because they trust a founder. Some people donate because they saw evidence of impact. Just a few minutes ago, I mentioned about someone. Please mute your mic. And some people donate because a story moved them. So trust me, those stories that you are hiding, keeping it, share them. There are people that are interested. They might support with little, things, and you can go there and respond and make impact in someone's life. So people usually support organizations they believe are genuine, active, and accountable. I'm laying this foundation for you to understand how you can access funding. You have a responsibility to do as leaders. You have responsibility to do as project managers, as founders, as young organizations. All right. People believe when you're genuine, when you're active, and when you're accountable. Advantage of donations, now it's easier starting point. Like I said earlier, new NGOs may struggle to secure grants immediately. Donation can be practical starting point for you. This is an advice. It has a very good advantage. A founder may begin by mobilizing support from their personal, networks and all of that, your friends, your is it what do you call it, club in school and all of that. All right. So many donations come with fewer, restrictions compared to grant. They are more flexible. You understand? The organization may have more freedom in using the support. Very good for you to understand between donations and grants. And then community ownership, donation-based funding, they create stronger community participation. People feel connected to the work. These are the advantage. And then we also have the disadvantage of donation. Donation mostly comes maybe once a week or once in a month, and then donation, sometimes the income fluctuates. It makes a lot of planning difficult for you. All right. So many organizations rely heavily on their founders' contact. It is important. Talk to your team, the volunteers you have, your colleagues, talk to them as a leader. They don't have to rely on your contact. They can equally, extend their contacts. And from there, you build all the network. Remember, I mentioned how you can access grant is through relationship. So sometimes it's very risky if fundraising systems are not developed. In your organization, in your institutions, charity, please have a business department. The grant, department, the business grant or whatever you can name it, please have it. It's very important. And some of it, the donor fatigue. Supporters may stop giving if communication becomes poor or they no longer see evidence of your work. Very important point. Anytime you receive the donation, please make it visible. Provide reports, annual reports. You can provide, simple pictures on how the distribution, the processes, and the selection and everything. Provide them, on social media or in reports. Now, how can NGO improve donation, or how NGOs can improve donation? Now, an organization can strengthen donation support by communicating their work. I mentioned this, sharing real stories, showing the result, thanking supporters, building donor relationship, creating clear, giving opportunity. So it's very good for you to thank somebody that has given you something. People really support what they do not understand. So communication matters. Communicate what you're doing, why you want to do it, how you want to do it. Very, very important. And say thank you, right? So the number 3 part of it is many companies invest in social causes. I'm exposing some things for you, which is very important. You don't have to wait for the donors, but companies around you, they also invest in social causes. This is an opportunity for NGOs. Don't only rely on donation, don't rely on grants, but we have corporate partnership. So corporate partnership involves what? Collaboration between NGOs and businesses. Now, the support may come in different forms, right? Now, I want you to take this point very serious. Not every partnership is cash, it's money. Not every partnership. Now, you can design a program and then, a financial discipline, or you want to have a financial education to a particular, set of women that you've empowered with cash grant. You might need a financial expert. So not every partnership is cash. A company may provide funding. Yes, they can give you. They can give you materials. They can give you capacity building, training. They can give you equipment and professional expertise, publicity support, and lots more. This is very important. Reach out to them. I know a few that have made their calls. You can reach out to HP, you can reach out to Coca-Cola, you can reach out to those banks, all those companies, reach out to them and have a very clear times. You understand? So, for instance, a telecommunication company may sponsor a digital literacy program. It might not give you cash. A bank may provide, any financial literacy project support. He might come to your field, educate people, and, teach them about, financial, whatever, based on your project. He did not give you money, but he's there to give you expertise. A construction company may donate building materials. You might have in your proposal and budget, you need, according to one of your budget line for building materials, you're needing maybe $500,000. No, a company, construction company may come and then give you and donate those materials. All right. A food company may support nutrition. So please take note, corporate partnerships are really important, in terms of, getting all these. So why companies partner with NGOs? It is also important for you to take note of this. They might have their own reasons, but remember, as an organization, you have your own principles and policies. Companies always partner with NGOs because of corporate social responsibility goals. Now, those companies might have envelopes to support, social responsibilities, based on the company's, contributions. Also, let me tell you, they are not only supporting with you, remember, it's partnership. They equally want to promote their brand. Yes. So brand visibility. So they have a lot of reasons why they want to partner with you. It's just for you to understand and have a well clear terms in terms of, having those partnership with those corporate, business people, and all of that. So this means NGO must understand how to present partnership opportunity professionally. Very key points. You need to understand how to present those opportunities professionally. You understand? So we have advantages of also of corporate partnership. Now, access to resources. Like I said earlier, companies can provide valuable resources beyond money. Sometimes I said expertise, logistics, equipment, visibility, and mention them. And equally, long-term opportunities. Strong partnership can become the occurring relationship. You understand? Equally increase visibility. So corporate collaboration can expand organizational exposure. If today HP company, provided its staff for organization A in South
Something.
Africa, please can you mute your mic?
Remove sandwich.
Please mute your mic. All right, thank you. So, if a HP company partner with an organization in Uganda or probably Nigeria or anywhere, trust me, is going to, build and increase your visibility. They will be like, oh, HP partner with this organization, very important. So from there, it's going to increase your visibility, and then you have access to more people that trust HP. So it equally has its own challenges. Companies usually come, with what? Their expectations. They have high expectation. So you need to also align yourself, prepare yourself anytime you're engaging companies. These are just tips, basic tips for you in terms of, accessing funding through the corporate, partnership. And you need to, poor communication can damage, all those opportunities. So you need to communicate properly and in a very good manner. And then alignment with, with issues. So not every company will align with your mission. Please take note of this. NGO must assess compatibility carefully. Remember, I said earlier, not every funding is for you. So just because now I mentioned HP, as a startup, baby organization, you quickly start writing to HP for partnership because you want to support one community with health, materials or health support. No. Ensure you study the alignment. If you are into digital innovation or tech, it is very okay for you to access, to write to HP and see how they can support. Also, reputation risks. The organization must consider whether a potential partner reputation matches its value. There are other companies that does not match your value. Then they have their own mission. It's good for you to pay attention to them. Pay attention to, whatever they want so that it doesn't, have negative impact on your reputation or your organization as well. So this is a practical advice for you on this particular part. Do not approach companies with generic message. Please sponsor our NGO, sponsor this, sponsor that. No. Instead, present to them professionally who we are, what problem we are trying to solve, what you have done already, What support do you need? How does a partnership benefit both parties? Professional presentation matters. Don't go and please sponsor our this, sponsor our that. Please, this is very important. Can you please mute your mic? Mute your mic. I'll call your name.
Sharing.
I'll mute. Please, Kujera, mute your mic. Anjali Kujera, mute your mic. Okay, please mute your mic, or otherwise I think I'll just mute you myself here. So professional presentation matters, all right? Um, the fourth one is fundraising events. Very good pattern a lot of organizations are doing. So fundraising events are activities organized to mobilize, financial support. Example of them could be a charity walk. If you identify a problem, you could just come up, raise your banner, and have a charity walk. People might see and then support what you're doing. Fundraising dinners, they are very important. Some people don't know about them. You can organize a dinner. From there, you discuss, challenges and issues. Before you know, commitment. People will begin to make commitment. Yesterday, I was advised also by a particular donor, from the Europe. We were sitting down, we were having coffee, and then he was like, all these things happen because we could just sit down on this table and then we seal a deal. I will tell you opportunities, and before you know, we start discussing, and then I will support. So dinners are also important. Not all dinners, you should neglect. So awareness concert, you can create awareness concerts, community fundraising online, fundraising events combines awareness building and resource mobilization. It's very important you know this point. So anytime you're posting things, it's not only you creating awareness, but you are equally doing resource mobilization. Please, can you mute your mic? I can see up to now you did not mute your mic. So let me do that for you. Okay. So this is a very good important point. Fundraising events, they are not just awareness sessions, but also resource mobilization. So advantages of fundraising events are public engagement. Events create, awareness about the organization and what you're doing. It equally supports community participation. Supporters becomes more involved. All right. And then relationship building. So event creates opportunities to engage donors, partners, volunteers, and whatever, audience you're targeting. So it's very important to understand that, yeah. Fundraising events are some key parts. So challenges of fundraising events, planning requirements. So events require coordination, logistics, publicity, budgeting, and staffing. Just so you know, you can't, it might work for you or what, but professionally, it requires a lot of coordination. You have to sit, talk about it, logistics support, you have to publicity, incorporate all those things that are going to make them so clear, and then promote your reach. Cost implications. Some events cost money to organize. So poor planning can lead to losses. Course. Now, you going or taking people out for dinner, of course, you need money to do that. So uncertain outcome. So a fundraising event does not guarantee success. Please take note of this. The fact that you organize maybe a dinner, spend money, it doesn't guarantee that you get money. So it's also good you pay attention to that. So important lesson about this basic slide is many NGOs make major mistakes. They depend on one funding source. This creates vulnerability. Of course, I'm talking to you from experience. I'm talking to you from other, people's experience, other leaders' experience. Do not just limit yourself to just one source of funding. All right. An organization depending entirely on a grant may struggle when grants delays. Depending entirely on one donor may face risks of, support. It stops. So it's very good for you to diversify, and then combine multiple funding streams. So activity for you is a personal reflection as a leader, as a starter, or as an NGO that is still building. Sit down with your team and list, some potential funding sources for your NGO. Remember, it's very good for you to know in terms of alignment. Don't go, you're doing education and you're applying for grants on agriculture that you've seen, and all of that. And, utilize all those for, the corporate, the donation and all of that. So please take note of this, very important. And when it comes to grants, who could potentially fund work in your sector? Specifically, when it comes to donation, who already believes in your work? When it comes to corporate partnership, which companies align with your mission? When it comes to funding, fundraising, what realistic fundraising activity could your organization organize? Please, this is for you personally to respond to this question once we are done with this session. So, do you have any question before I move to the next, session? I will take one or two questions. Let me limit it to two, or recommendation, or you have any inputs. Then we go to the next topic. Any question? Okay, the Great African Foundation. The Great African Foundation, yeah. You can go ahead with your question or comment or inputs. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, so this is Derek from the Great African Foundation. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. So the question that I had in form of fundraising is that, I'm sorry, I have some coffee. So the question that I had on fundraising is that can you, when you are doing events, can you record the financial, I mean, the in-kind donations as in the financial systems, maybe in QuickBooks? Like you haven't received the money in cash, but maybe you booked a venue. There you got a sponsorship of venue. So can you put that? Can you record the venue in the financial records, the costs that you had a venue as an in-kind donation, as a receipt of in-kind donation? And the last thing is also, I would like to ask if these slides, if we are going to get all this record.
Okay, so before Nana comes in, I think I need you to repeat the question again. The first one, but however, the second one, yeah, the slide is on YouTube already, so you can have access to it.
Okay, with the account Philip, yeah.
No. I'll share it on the platform.
Okay, so my question was that for example, you have received an in-kind donation. You are doing an event. The partner or the donor has gave you maybe the venue. Maybe he said, I don't have money, I can give you a venue. I have a hotel, I can give you a venue. So in your financial records, in reporting your financial records, can you write the cost of the venue, but you haven't received the money in cash, but you just record it so as it reads at the final annual report?
Yeah, it's good.
Audited report.
Yeah, it's good for you to record any support. Initially, based on your budget, you have captured that you need this money for this particular purpose. Your budget line, okay, I need money for hall rentals. I want to rent a venue. However, a donor now supported. So you can record it because already you need the venue, and then a donor now covered it. So you need to have a note. It depends on your organization, internal, how you report or whatever platform you do that. So you can capture it in the reports that, yes, these are the budget. However, this has been covered by this organization. This has been covered as a donation support, this. So it's very good for you to record everything based on the support you've gotten based on your planning. Did I respond to your question? Or I'll give anyone here that can also, respond to you, or otherwise, if you're okay, we can move forward.
Yes, okay. I have understand that you can record, you can keep record. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine then. Okay, thank you for your question. So, Nana, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Philip John, for this very extensive teaching on funding. Okay, so I want to ask for an organization which isn't registered, like as an NGO, would asking or going further to seek funding from companies be the right thing, or should one actually wait until you're registered as an NGO first?
Okay. So, can I give someone from the audience to respond to her? An NGO that is not registered, right? Can the NGO proceed to requesting for support from corporate or something? Did I get the question clear?
Yes,
And
yes, it did.
I request Nena to repeat the question so that we can understand all.
Okay. Please repeat the question because I want it to be interactive so that other colleagues can make input based on experience.
Okay, so I said for an organization that isn't registered yet,
Mhm.
would asking for company funding be the right thing, or should the organization wait until it's registered?
Yes, Mohammed, you want to respond to the question? Okay, so I think before anyone, okay, Victor Oluwatosin, you can respond to the question. Please go ahead.
I want to share my thoughts from my own experience, right? Yeah, the fact they are not registered if you're going to be approaching companies, then it's going to be just like Philip talked about from the angle of CSR. Some organizations have the criteria of that you must be registered. Others do not. I remember when I carried out a project in Kogi State, I reached out to Goodnight International, producers of Decent, and they actually supported me. I think the reason, I think we had the registration thing, so they didn't give me like their premium package, but they supported, right? Giving me another package entirely, but they still supported regardless. So I don't think that should hold you back. You can shoot your shots. If they now tell you that, oh, but if you're able to check them and see their CSR policy, right, and see that, oh, it's strictly for registered organizations, that's fine. But some of them really do not have that outline. They just want to see the track record of your work and be sure that you're ready to commit to it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you
My
very
thoughts.
much. Okay, great. That sounds good. So I'm giving two persons that raised their hand, Joyce Akpan and then Damilola. Please, after this, then we go to the next session. Thank you, Oluwatosin. So Joyce, you can unmute yourself and say something.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, I just want to also contribute my thoughts on the question. So, like Philip said, there are a couple of ways to raise funds, either by donations and other activities. So, if you're not a registered organization, you would not hold on to organizations that actually need your certificate of registration before they can provide support. You can also look at donors, one-on-one activities that you can reach out to people for support, and other means of contribution. So you don't necessarily have to wait for being to be registered before seeking for support or seeking for funds. Yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Yeah, Dami, you're the last person. Then we proceed.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. John. Responding to this question, I would like to just buttress on the few points that has been earlier raised. Yes, some organizations or companies specifically may require that the company be registered, and some may not. So just like the first response said, shoot your shots. You never know. You never know what you might find out. However, I know that part of the challenges with such kind of approach is the fact that they would want to see the integrity and the rest of the things that has to do with corporate registration. Because if they are giving it, it looks like they are giving it to an individual and not really an entity in the sense. I did something similar when I was doing my NYSC program. You know, I reached out to various organizations for support for a personal CDS project at that time, which of course is leading me now to even to scale up to registering my organization and doing the rest of it. So I just feel it's shoot your shot, and then whatever you find out, then it informs the next steps you're going to take. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you all for your contribution. So for me to
Okay,
wrap
hi,
it up.
Philip. Can I just make a comment on this question?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So, I just wanted to say, you know, in everything that you do, right? As a Christian, I believe that seed time and harvest is very important in everything you do, and it depends on the kind of support you need from an organization. You can actually ditch the asking for donations or support to prominent organizations that you know you're going to be needing a lot later, and probably just go through friends and family and people that actually believe in your cause. So when you're not registered, you know, you can go through the route of doing some, you know, personal requests from different sources. But for organizations that say you're looking at, you know, good support later in the future, I really would not recommend that you go ahead at this point, you know, to ask for any support, because say maybe your support or your target is to reach 10,000 women, 10,000 children. You know, if you're not registered, they will probably support 100. I don't know if it makes sense. So honestly, I would advise that, you know, you be patient in order for you to maximize the support from most of these prominent. I'm talking from experience, and then they also look at it like it's coming from, they honestly will not take you too seriously, asking for a large, you know, asking for big support, and then you're not even registered. It sounds like a joke. I'm sorry, but I'm just being honest, and I'm coming from a place of experience.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we are going to have more time after this last, you know, slide. But to wrap it up, you know, on this, it's sometimes it's risky, and from the professional lens, I will not advise you. It's not advisable. Why? Because you lack legal, you know, status. You're not officially recognized. So some donors might not trust you. And then also when it comes through the lens of accountability, there is no, probably, you know, you might not have in place formal structure. And then legal risks also. I think I discussed this within this week with a colleague. In many places, including Nigeria, collecting funds publicly without registration can raise compliance issues. Do you get? So it's important, and sometimes reputation damage. I've seen organizations that were not registered. They went and carry out activities, and then at the end of the day, it's a medical outreach, and then at the end of the day, some reactions from the community, and from there, traces were made, and you know, a lot of things. So it was identified that the organization is not registered. However, they've gotten support through, you know, another organization. So it's a lot of risks to them. So sometimes it's good that for you to be fully transparent, avoid presenting yourself as the organization, but let the document speak, and it's good, in terms of keeping records of everything. So the registration document is also a record for the organization. So thank you very much. I think it's good. I appreciate all your input on this from experience. That's why we're here to help. So, Hirari Mohammed, I think I will come back to you after this slide, because we plan to wrap it up in the next, 40 minutes or probably.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Great.
So, while we are done with discussing, how you access funding, the basics, because there are some intense things, document later on that we might come in terms of advance, but these are the basics for you as a starter, as somebody that is, coming up. Please, it's good you take notes of the first presentation. So this session is basic, financial management and all of that. So funding is important. We've talked about funding and all of that is very important, but getting funding alone is not enough. Yes, this is where after you've gotten the funding and then you're happy, your project succeeded and all of that is not enough. This is also a beginning of another journey, right? So managing money properly is very, very, very important. An organization can receive funding and still struggle because of poor financial management. Yes, I think almost all organizations must have gone through all those scrutiny, when it comes to internal controls. So many NGO problems come from weak financial system. From personal experience, yes, we can never run away from that. We went through a lot of due diligences and we failed woefully, some of them. Why? Because our internal controls are weak. So, but then the most important thing is that you use those feedbacks to build your system. So common issues that were being identified or is being identified generally is, one is missing records. Maybe in your financial reports, there are missing records. Sometimes overspending, sometimes poor documentation, sometimes there are no clear reporting, and sometimes your budgeting are very weak. And the major one, misuse of funds. All right. So financial management is simply how an organization plans, records, controls, and reports its money. It is another thing for you to have the money, and it's also another thing for you to manage my money. Let's say I'm the donor, right? So it's good you take note of this also. So we are going to look at budgeting because that's, of course, the template. A budget is a financial plan. You write budgets, you submit with proposals, the connection of the budget and then the narrative. It shows the budget template, or the budget mostly shows the expected income and the expected expense. So budget helps, young organizations or big organizations answer important questions. It's good for you to have a budget, like an organization or your charity or your foundation have a very standardized institutional budget. Now, it helps you to answer this question: how much money do we need? When writing a proposal, you should know, what will we spend on? Can we afford this activity? What are the financial gaps? So this budget template helps you to understand or to respond to all these things. So it's good for you to have a budget, a financial plan. Now, why budget matters? Without a budget, trust me, your project can be disorganized. Yes. From personal experience, yes. Expenses can exceed available resources. Yes. You can do overspend, you can underspend, and at the end of the day, I've been a project manager, and I know, when it means like, hey, come on, let's see the actual versus this, the financial terms, and then at the end of the day, you come and see you have overspent, a certain category of your budget. So it's important. And then it's also important, costs may be forgotten. There are some costs that may be forgotten if you don't have a good budget. So good budgeting improves your planning. Take note of this. It improves your planning. Now, component of, some basic, NGO budget are simply, transportation cost. Yes, on your budget template, we know you have that communication cost, venue, your materials, your feeding, logistics, staff support, monitoring, administration, all of these things, and many more. It depends on your organization. But the key point here is you should have a very good budget. All right. So example, suppose an NGO plan, a girls, leadership workshop. A sample of it, the possible budget lines include maybe the venue. You might have 50,000 naira, training materials, you 30,000, transportation, 40,000, refreshment. At the end of the day, you have your total budget. Now, this gives financial clarity before implementation begins. So budget gives financial clarity before implementation begins. So it's very good for you to have anytime you're planning to approach a donor or anytime you're being asked to submit a budget, in alignment with your narrative report. It's good that the budget is speaking with the narrative or the narrative is speaking with the budget. They speak, with each other. So the common budgeting mistakes that we normally make as starters is, whenever you're writing, a proposal or whenever you are invited, some of us just use the guess figures. Okay, I think we need laptop HP this capacity. Okay, let's put a million. We need this. You just be having guess figures, and at the end of the day, I think gradually when we are going to the advanced session, or probably somewhere, you might get to understand that there are some things that will there are some activities that are going to inform your budgeting in terms of market survey, price survey, you collect samples. Those things are things that will inform figures that you put on some budget lines and the economy as well. These are some of those things, but this is basic. So common budget mistakes, including, forgotten hidden costs, and then you prepare unrealistic budgets, and all of those things. So research actual market costs is very important. Whenever you want to make budgets or you want to prepare a budget, ensure that you go to the market, check the prices, your economy, and then present it so that at the end of the day, if the donor asks you, why did you plan to pay Mr. Philip, $500,000? Mr. Philip, okay, the economy, things in the market are expensive. If we reduce the salary of Mr. Philip to $200,000, he might not be able to do this, do that. You will be able to explain, why did you decide to do this? So you'll be able to explain because you already have your market assessment survey. So it's important that you record all these things during your budgeting, all right? So common budgeting mistakes. Bookkeeping is very important. Now, bookkeeping refers to recording financial transactions. It's nothing. Nobody is following you. So it simply puts every inflow and every outflow should be documented. Bookkeeping is important. Money received should be recorded. Money spent should be recorded. These are the basics financial, things that you should know from this stage. All right. So it's important you should have, and then there are some accounting softwares. I think you can go online and check them that will help you to digitalize your internal controls, and then it helps you to automate every of your, financial, spendings and all of that. So what NGO should record sometimes are income, and expenses. So sometimes you have amount, dates. You should be able to have this one. I'm just presenting a common one. The date, the income, and then the expenditure. So the amount, source of purpose, donation from supporter A. We received donation on the 5th of June, 2026. Method of payment, the person sent 100,000 and he paid through bank transfer. Have these things, recorded, and then provide also the supporting document. So on the 8th of June, we were able to print workshop materials, and then from the 100,000 that was supported, we were able to spend 25,000 naira, and then cash payment receipt is also available. So those processes or everything here should be captured with what? With evidence, supporting documents. You can call it means of verification, MOVs and whatever. It depends on the terms that you use. So good record keeping supports accountability. You're not doing it because somebody will come after for accountability purpose. Now, a transparent financial reporting, one important area NGO overlook is financial reporting. So, I am an experienced person in this sector, and then equally, I have experience where I did not report some financial, values and then reports presented to the donors because, we underspent, and then in some cases, some of the project we overspent. So those things really affect us, but then it made us improve from all those manual procedures to digital, financial, like the QuickBooks are there, the Zohos, they will help you to, indicate anytime, you're going out of the way, you're overspending, it will also indicate to you and all of that. So financial reporting simply means showing clearly how money was received and how it was used. So in NGO work, financial reporting matters because organizations hardly handle money meant for social impact. Mainly, the money that was given to you is for social impact. So whether funds come from donors, companies, individual grants, and community supporters, is for social impact. Be it your organization is humanitarian or developmental or into whatever sector, whether you're a tech, focused organization, corporate companies might give you so that you can go and provide, technical trainings to vulnerable communities on digital economy and all of that. So yes, they are there, and then you need to also ensure that at the end of the day, you provide, reports on your activities. So people expect accountability. You should know this. People want to know, where did the money go, what activities were funded, how much was spent, and what balance remain. It is important for you to be transparent, and transparency builds confidence. Poor reporting damage trust. Take note of this. Whenever someone has given you money, maybe this is one of the reasons why some other organizations are not receiving the second, phase of their project. Probably because, after giving you all those technical support, still there are areas that you fail to provide, financial support. So please, it's good for you to take note of this and ensure that you're transparent in everything you do. Equally, financial reporting is important for a lot of reasons. It's important for a lot of reasons. One of it is for donor confidence. They want to be assured that, the money that we give these people, it's being used responsibly. So good reporting increase the chances of future support. I mentioned maybe that was why you did not receive it. So many donors examine financial records, supporting documents, the expenditure breakdowns, the reporting quality before renewing partnership. Yes. I work with a particular donor myself, and then they supported us, and we've received a very beautiful feedback. All right, they said, you guys did well. We would like to work with you more. Unfortunately, I'll leave the story there. So it's good for you to have what? Donor confidence anytime you're being given money to manage. Also, it matters because of internal organization controls. So reporting is not only for outsiders. It helps the organization understand its financial positioning. Please take note of this. It's very, very important. So it's not because of donor, because the donor is coming and then we need to ensure that this is being done properly. No. You have to own it that it's also build your organization internally. It will help you to understand. So without proper reporting, leaders may struggle to answer simple questions such as, how much money do we, currently have? In some meetings, you might be, questions, a lot of questions might just come. So how much have we spent this month? Which activity costs? Are we operating within the budget, or we are operating outside the budget, or what happened? So it's good for you to have your, your financial budget, like I said, which tracks, the income and the expense. And it's good for you to have an internal plan, whether it's monthly review, you update it and see how much is left, whether it's quarterly, whether it depends on however you want to do it within your own organization. Also, financial reporting matters because it reduces financial errors. So good reporting helps organizations detect problems early. So for example, duplicate payments. If probably you decided to start, your financial management from January, and then probably it's in November that you decided to check. Now it's a high risk. It's very risky for your organization. So it's very good for you to consistently, check, your financial expenditure so that you'll be able to understand whether there are errors or whether there are duplicate payments, whether there are issues, missing funds, whether you're overspending, whether, there are incorrect calculation and all of that. So it's very good to pay attention as a leader, and as the head of an organization or project manager and whatever. So what should be included in NGO financial reporting? There are a lot of things, yeah? What should be included? A basic NGO financial reporting should include, the income summary, the expenditure, and then the balance information. Remember, I said this is basics. Yeah. So when we are having the financial experts, they are going to give you the advanced, approach of how you should manage your. So what money came in terms of, the income, example, grant, donation, income, partnership support, fundraising, and all of that. So these are your income. So expenses, what money was spent? Example, is it transportation, communication, venue, logistics, administration costs, and all of that? And then what balance, how much remains? You need to provide supporting evidences like receipt. When we paid for communication, this is on budget line of communication. We paid, probably we have 10,000 on the budget line for communication. And then in May, we were able to pay 4,000. So the receipt is there showing 4,000. And then your budget is showing, okay, the balance remaining is 6,000. The payment proof and the transfer records. You need to have all these supporting documents that will respond to how much remains. So whenever you carry out the training, it's also good to carry out, attendance records where relevant, should in case you carry out capacity building or you procure food for, some event. So it's good for you to take note of that. Accountability also is important in finance because it means you're taking responsibility for how much funds are used. Accountability is 360, right? So it means being able to explain decisions, spending, and financial processes. So in NGO, accountability is not optional. It's not an option. So financial accountability, applies to what? The head of organization, the finance officers, the program staff, the project leads, anyone handling organizational resources. Accountability, you need to provide or you need to be accountable and be responsible for how funds are being used. So a finance officer keeps proper expenditure records. A program officer submits receipts after field activities, and then the head or the founder separates personal spending from NGO, spending. So this is also important because there are a lot of head of organization. I've seen that practically, that it's very difficult to separate, personal, funding and then the NGO spending. So it's good for you to track this. Very, very important as the head of an organization or finance officer on this call. It's good. You should know that you need to do that. And a team follows approval procedure before, major purchase and all of that. So these practices help strengthen organizational credibility. As head of an organization, please, I've seen where head of organization use NGO funding for their personal purpose. So it's good for you to differentiate or separate them. You might have multiple accounts, bank accounts for, institutional development, project-based account, project B-based account, this. You need to separate them for clarity and then for financial accountability. So personal and organizational money must be separated. I'm making emphasis on this because many starters, at some point, lose integrity. Please, Lawan, can you mute yourself? Lawan, can you? Okay, let me help you do that. So, you need to, as the head of organization, mostly this is for the head of organizations or agencies or charities, separate those funds. All right. This is an area where many new NGOs struggle. Some founders use personal accounts, with NGO account, So please, this creates confusion. Your personal account is not an NGO account. And the NGO account is not your personal account. Please take note of this as a leader or as a head or as a founder. It creates accountability problems. So once we go on your bank statement, your financial statement, and then we realize that, okay, they are personal transaction, we try to ask questions, or auditors will ask questions, or maybe those people that are there for due diligences will ask questions. So please try to separate that. Where possible, organizations should gradually build systems that separate personal finances and organizational finances. Even small NGOs should take this very, very serious. Very serious. And then I think I've advised couple, number of organizations that ask questions. Our organizations are not registered. My NGO, my foundation, my charity is not registered. But then I want to carry out an activity and I want to put my personal account number. I told her that some of them, I respond to them. I told them that personally, I will not even put my donation in your personal account, because there are a lot of people that might fake it and come and then they want. So for you to be legit, it's good I see the organization account number, the name of the charity tallies with the name of the account. Of course, yes, I will know that this is specific and then it's not personal. So I can't share that. So it's important for you to be legal, to register, open your bank account with your organization name for transparency and then for accountability sake. So common financial mistakes that most young organizations, do make are no budget before activity. So some organizations begin project without financial planning. It's good for you to have plan budgets. All right. Then halfway through the implementation, you will see money are finished. All right. So it's good for you to have budget templates where you track all your expenses, your income and your expenditure. And also, some of the mistake is poor records keeping. Transaction happen without documentation. Months later, nobody remembers what was spent. So this happens a lot. All right. So it's very important that we track and we keep records of whatever spendings. And if I am a finance officer, I will not approve any payment if I did not receive any document or complete document or any means of verification. I will not approve and move forward. As a leader, as a head, equally do not approve any payment without all those means of verification. And also missing receipt. Some expenses are claimed without supporting evidence. This weakens reporting quality. So you will see that the documents are there, but they are not complete. Probably the receipt is not there. What is happening with the receipts? You need to ask those questions before you approve. So for you to protect the integrity and then your financial accountability, do not approve those payments. Now, what are you doing? You are setting a system, all right? So also, you join your personal money and then the NGO fund. This creates confusion. Please try to ensure that you separate all of them. So it creates a lot of confusion. It weakens transparency, and then there are a lot of complications in terms of accountability. All right. So spending outside approved plans, budget discipline matters. Unplanned spending can affect program delivery. Please, some donors, I think when we go further, once you submit your budget to a particular donor and he approves it, yes, anytime you want to make any modification, you have to go back to the donor requesting, providing justification why you want to make some realignment within whether the category, within a category or outside a category. Of course, once you get an approval, then you revert back and then you continue, in case you have any unplanned or any emergency that you want to, touch a particular budget line. So it's important for you to also get approvals and all of that, right? So waiting until donor asks for record. Documentation should be routine, not emergency work done during audit. So please always keep records. It saves you a lot of stress. And also it helps you, not to get confused during, audits. Sometimes you try, where's this document? Where are these documents? So it's also important that make all keeping records and documentation a culture, in your office. So these are simple financial practices every, organization should be able to at least start with. So even small organization can begin with all these simple systems. You do not need a large finance department immediately. No, you can start with a finance officer. You don't need finance intern, the manager, the area coordinator, the country, whatever name you wish to give it. You do not need to, have those things. So you can have all this basic, maintain a budget, track income and expenditure, keep all the receipts. Your single finance officer can support that, and also use spreadsheet or financial notebooks. At some point, I understand that all those digital financial platforms, their costs, you have to pay money, some of them, and then renewal and all of that. So you could start, using spreadsheets and financial book. Also, you need to prepare simple monthly summaries, develop this, keep it as a culture, monthly you come and have your own monthly meetings and then weekly meetings, that will help you to track and prepare. And also review spendings regularly. You don't have to wait till after 6 months, after 1 year. It might end up surprising you that you've overspent some lines, and then at the end of the day, it has a very huge high financial risks. And also assign financial responsibility clearly. You don't need to be the head of the organization and also the finance officer and also this. No, assign financial responsibility clearly. So these small habits, strengthen organization over time. It's very good. So for you, you can just do that personally. You're just starting an NGO, you can rehearse. But our advice as a head of organization, you need to understand budgeting and financial discipline. All right, so that you can, understand yourself better with the finance unit of your charity, institution, or whatever. So if you go back, you can draft a simple monthly NGO budget. You can have, maybe at the beginning for a start, you can have a 3 category. You can have the personnel category, you can have the projects category, and then you can have the general operating cost category. So from there, you should be able to know that, okay, the personnel, these are where the staffs are. You put the staff, we need a program manager, finance, procurement, logistics, and all of that. And then in the projects or programs, you need to, okay, at this, we need 1 million for sensitization, for donation of part, this amount for this activity, this amount for, and then for the general operating costs for communication, office supplies, and all of that. You could just start something small. So it's good for you to have your own monthly budget. So you should prepare it and practice together with your team. You can put realistic figures, but then you should itemize it. You have the transport, the estimated cost, communication, for these are the estimated costs, program activity, material, logistics. So you have your total at the end of the day, and this is the budget that you would need to share with the donor or whosoever that is interested in funding you. Also, after completion, you should also, don't forget any costs. And then the estimates should be realistic. Remember, I mentioned that you need to carry out, your market survey. You need to understand the actual market price. And the common question is actually, does the budget match the actual activity? So let the budget always speak with the narrative document. You need to have those narrative documents. If in your narrative, you said in your narrative proposal that you are going to carry out sensitization, let there be budget line that will support, procurement of items for the sensitization. If you say in the narrative that you're going to provide parts for 200 women, let in your budget captures a budget line that, okay, we would like to procure 200 parts. Let the budget match the actual activity. Very important. So this is like a reflective questions before, we go. It's good that you think about these things. Which funding source seems more realistic for your NGO, at your current stage is very important. What funding mistakes, when I mean funding, all those financial management, what are those mistakes that you have been making or observing over time? please don't ignore them. Does your NGO currently keep financial records properly? It's very good to just go with your team, sit down and understand. And if a donor requested your financial or request for your financial records today, would you be ready to present? These are questions. I know some people were like, no, we have to go back again and check and check and check and check, or call, hire consultant to, So it's good for you to start putting your house in order. And what financial practices will you improve after this session? So every session or every moment, every due diligence or every assessment comes with a responsibility of growth, an opportunity for you to grow. All right. So it's good for you to always accept them. The fact that you fail a due diligence of a particular donor today doesn't mean you remain like that, except if you choose not to improve. But if there are comments there, ensure you arrange and fix those comments. So this session is just a basic session for you to basically put your house in order and then answer those questions, because those are some things that will make your NGO position for funding opportunity. And whenever a donor approach you, he can boldly, in fact, without waste of time, after checking all your procedures and past records, he will actually be ready to give you a grant. So summary of what we've discussed today on this session is funding is important in NGO work. This is a fact. Otherwise, there will be problem, but we need funding. So, however, strong organization understand that funding is not only about finding money. It is also about building system that supports responsible use of resources. So please take note of this particular point. It's about building system that support responsible use of resources. It's not about the funding, but your system is important. Responsible system. So NGO gets funding through different sources, including, I mentioned earlier, grant, donation, corporate partnership, fundraising, and all of those activities. Now, it is also important for each source has advantage and limitation. You need to know that. No single funding source fits every organization. Diversify, reach out to people. You have this, donor that is supporting you. Beautiful, well done. Look for other, donors that are available. So good financial management helps organization use resources responsibly. So key practices include have a very good budgeting template that tracks your income and expenditure. Bookkeeping, very important. Keep all records. Documentation, they are very, very important. Transparent reporting, keep reporting. Accountability is very key. So organizations that manage finance properly, they always build stronger relationship, credibility, strong partnership, and in fact, long-term sustainability. But once there is a problem, or once it has been identified that you have financial deficiency, of course, it will be a red flag, and then no donor will like to work with you. So this is for now the end for this part. Do you have any question? We still have like 5 to 10 minutes. So colleagues, do you have questions on financial management? Yeah, you should have questions. Okay. We are going to take 1, 2, 3. So Precious, you can go ahead. I can see Precious, and then yes, Mohammed, you're back, and then Damilola. So it will be an interactive session. I will allow some, colleagues here to actually make inputs on some of those questions so that we'll have different perception and understanding of those responses from other contexts. So yeah, Precious, go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Philip. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
I'm having kata.
Oh, okay.
So
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to ask a question concerning the financial management aspect. We started an organization last year, and throughout the process, we've been using personal accounts to receive donations and all of that. But entering this year, we finally got registered and also in the process of opening corporate account. So I want to understand, how do we keep the recording process of the fact that we've gotten money through the personal accounting?
So,
Sorry.
you've been using personal accounts before getting your own corporate account, if I get it clear. So the question is,
how do we record? How do we keep record for this, what, for the finance that we've been using the personal account to gather via the projects?
okay,
This is not going to match. This is not going to match with the organization name and all of that.
okay. So, do I have someone that wants to respond, or otherwise I can? Someone, Mohammed, do you want to respond?
Philip, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
And in my view, the question that my friend has raised, like when before he used an individual account, later on he made a corporate account, so he need to record in his financial and it starts like when he's using those the corporate account is like it's aligning the company's name. And there are so many ways that you can record. And one things that money donors can ask you, and like when you are in terms of when you are being given a grant or you're giving some donation, you need to provide your financial, all these things, and budgeting. So you need to provide like that. In some areas, as they are the banks that you use, you go to the bank and you bring all those in your last 6 months, in your last 12 months, what you have been budgeted. It's the first one way. There's another way that you can record is that using like as we have seen in the session, and using spreadsheets or Excel format, and that you can keep on record all your information. So if you pay like this month and this total month, like if you like provide money for these individuals of you provide beneficiary, so you provide all that information into your Excel sheet, and then later on you will have it as online, or you can just find in a file so that you can have another time if you be needed. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mohammed, for that record. So, I totally understand that sometimes we might have the opportunities for donations or fundings, but then at some point we might not have, the corporate account. So for you to, record funds that have been used, probably sometimes maybe after with your personal account to the corporate. So once you have your NGO account, I think it's good if there are remaining, funds there. First, I will advise you transfer it. You move the funds from your personal account to the corporate account. And it's also good that you put in the narration, you label it probably transfer of funds received prior to opening an account. And equally, yes, donors might understand, that you've been using personal account, but however, it will be important to document everything probably, because some donors might, okay, we're interested. Let's see the personal account when you receive the funding and how you were able to use it. So it's also good that once you have a very good bookkeeping, it helps in the donor in terms of taking decisions. So it's also good once you're using. I would not really advise to use it for long sometimes. But I totally understand that for a short period of time while you're having opportunity, you want to make use of it. It's good that you register, you record every inflow and then expenditure. This is also good. Previous donations, how it has been spent, the sources, the breakdown, and everything. You need to start. You need to provide all those evidences for the donors. Then you open your corporate account. But I think it's not a best practice, using personal account in terms of transparency, in terms of trust issues, in terms of accountability, and like I said earlier, financial risks. These are some key things that I want you to take note. But it won't do any harm provided that you have all the records, you move them to the corporate account, and from there you provide all the documentations. Document speaks a lot, right? So it's very important for you to take note of that. So do I have someone that want to respond, or otherwise it's a question? Damilola, do you want to make contributions?
No, mine is a question.
Okay, please go ahead. So, but first, did we respond to your question, the first person?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very
So
much.
Precious, I think it's good. It's not really a problem, but it's good that you have a corporate account now. Please document it and provide it to any donor with some maybe memo and justifications.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, that's great. Yeah, Damilola, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much once again, Mr. Philip. I want to really sincerely appreciate you for pouring out your heart towards what you do, and sincerely, I've been really enlightened today. So my question is about the first point you mentioned earlier, which is grants as a source of funding for an NGO. You said something around large funding opportunities, which has to be structured and more professional, which would need you to, come up with project proposals and the rest of them. So my question regards that is, when it comes to proposal writing, is there a specific way that certain donors require their proposal to be written? Do they give templates for you to write? Because I am just in the process of, registering my own organization. And so I just wanted to get that understanding when it comes to proposal development and writing. And what ways do you advise on to build capacity in proposal development and writing? Thank you.
Okay, this is actually a question for a topic some other time. However, I would respond to it. Okay, do I have someone that wants to respond? Or otherwise, I think what I would tell you is that it's good to have your independent organizational budget templates. Or otherwise, yes, I know of some donors that are providing their own templates and then their own percentages per category. So some donors might just come with their own budget template specifying that whatever budgeting you do, the category of staffing or personnel should not pass 10%. The category of project or program implementation should not pass 75%. And then the general operating costs, maybe 10%. So if you sum up everything, it might just be 100%. But there are some donors that will make it open so that you can submit with your own independent, organizational budgeting template. So it's good to also pay attention to that and see how your budgeting can fit into whatever donor requests, that you and the donor you are discussing. So it's good to take note of that. However, for other questions about the project proposal, the budgeting and all of those things, yeah, we are having a session on budgeting, proposal writing, and all of that going forward, things you need to know, things you need to incorporate and all of that. But yes, it's good for you to have your own independent organizational budget. And also, yes, some donors might tide, you towards their own budgeting templates. Did I answer your question, or do I have somebody that wants to also add to this? Okay. Yeah, so Idem Kubia, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrongly. Please, you can go ahead. Kubia Tabasi. Please, if you're talking, you can unmute your mic and talk. Okay. Kubiata Basi, I want to get your question. Let me check the chat box. Probably we have questions there. Okay. Okay, so I think transparency builds confidence, poor financial reporting. Okay. So I think yeah, please, Kubiata Basi, are you there to ask your question, or otherwise
Good
we are
evening,
not?
everyone.
Okay, good
Sorry,
evening.
my network switched.
Okay, no problem. So you can go ahead with your question.
Okay, my question is in the area of when we're talking about finance, organizational account and personal accounts, and to avoid the complication. So it goes like, what if you have an organizational account, but there was something that needed to be done, maybe during a project, an item that your team trusted, it was close to you, so you should go for it. Or maybe you're trying to file an annual return and the money was sent from the organizational account to your personal account, but then it's recorded for what purpose it was. If let's say the donors are trying to check your account and then you explain the reason why it was transferred to your personal account, does that count?
Okay, so I would want someone from the participant to respond to this question. I think I mentioned something about personal money and then the NGO money. It's good you take note of that. And also, I think there are some key things. So do I have someone that wants to respond to her question? She's so close to what they want, and then the NGO decided to transfer the money to her account so that she can procure those items. And from there, during recording, it was captured that the money has been transferred, but for that purpose, if I get you right?
Yeah, it was recorded.
Yeah, it was recorded. However, the money has been transferred to your account.
Yes.
So please, do I have somebody from the participants who can respond to this question? So I think it's important for you to respond to this. I would strongly advise you don't use your personal account for whatever purpose. Now, when we are talking about structure in an NGO or in a charity or foundation space, we are talking about allocation of responsibility, having particular department with a certain responsibility. Now, you are not a vendor. You are not a supplier. You are a staff, right? You are not supposed to procure anything on behalf. Now, even though NGOs are phasing out from the use of cash, now, if you want to procure things, I would still advise you to either go through your procurement process. If you have a trusted supplier, I don't want to advise this at this point, but if you have a trusted supplier, you can reach out to the supplier to supply it. And then from there, you can come back to formalize all the procedures, the procurement process and everything. That also it's applicable here. We are all of us here, we are leaders and change makers. So I'm trying to be open here, right? So, but for you to receive the resources and then procure, a staff, it raises a lot of alarm. For me, if I'm there to audit you, there will be a lot of questions there. So I think the best practice, let's sustain it and maintain it, is to use the logistics and then the procurement department responsible for procurement. They should provide, the procedures. They could reach out. You have your own procurement scenario. When things are below this amount, they can call for a direct purchase. There are, procedures that might request for, the request for quotation, either two. It depends on the amount of money that will also, the procurement procedure that might be applied to it. So I think I would not advise you to use it to avoid you providing justification memo, document, and all of that. So some donors are going to frown at that, and then some others might actually request document and procedures, but that is not advisable professionally. So I will personally not advise you to do that, but make use of your procurement department. Ensure you have that structure in your institution. So if in the absence of no question, thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, friends. Thank you, change makers, leaders, for waiting 2 hours straight for this session. I don't take it for granted. We are here to interact, to share our experiences so that we can support each other, grow positively. So thank you. And then for those that were absent, I'll share the YouTube link. You can go back again, listen, share with your team, step down, correct all those things. And don't forget to help someone, share out. There might be some people that wants to start organization, or there might be some people that are confused. Please share all this with them and then support them. And within your community, you can create, a capacity building session. It's really good to step down all this knowledge acquired. So thank you very much for your active participation, and hope to see you some other time. We'll share notice. Don't forget, go on LinkedIn if you're there. I make use of LinkedIn a lot. Make one post about what you've learned today. This is not about visibility, but it's about what we learned and then showing the world, and then it will help us to actually support other people. A lot of people might ask you questions, so from this, you can respond. Thank you very much. And Lawan, do you want to ask question, or is it an old legacy? Because I'm trying to round it up. Mr. Lawan? So no problem.
Hello, Mr. Philip. Good evening. Thank you for enlightening this session.
Okay. Thank you very much for.
Thank you,
for
Mr. Philip.
Okay, thank you.
So many knowledge here.
Okay, thank you very much for your feedback. Please, you can do that on LinkedIn so that we help other people. So thank you, everyone, and do have a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are.
Okay, thank you. I hope for the LinkedIn outcome sharing, can we use our screenshotting session?
No problem. That's fine. Whichever means you do, I think it's still fine. You can type what you've learned. I don't want you to use my material. Probably I don't want you to, but if you want to, feel free. But I want to have it in your own way, the way you understood and everything.
Okay.
All right,
No
thank
problem.
you. All right, bye.
You should share the YouTube channel so that we'll go through it again.
All right, thank you. So bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.